The war camp on the plains of Tauren buzzed with the sounds of machines, hammers, and distant gunfire. The sky above was heavy with smoke from battles fought beyond the horizon. Rows of tents stood in neat lines, each one serving a purpose. Medical stations, storage units, or command posts. But near the center of the camp was a wide repair tent, and inside it, Rian worked alone. Rian was a human engineer, not a soldier. He wore no armor or weapon, only a thick work vest with pockets. Filled with tools, his job was to keep the equipment of the Karethi warriors in working order. They were tall, strong, and fierce fighters from another world. But their armor was advanced and needed careful maintenance on that day. The repair tent was quiet except for the faint hum of a welding tool in Rian's hand. He was focused on repairing a cracked shield generator from the morning's battle. The device had taken a direct hit and would have been useless if not fixed quickly. The tent flap moved, letting in a rush of warm, dusty air. Rian looked up and saw a figure step inside. It was a Karethi warrior, but not just any warrior. She was taller than most, her posture straight and commanding. Her armor was black with silver markings that shimmered faintly, though many of its plates were scratched and scorched. A long burn mark ran across her shoulder guard and the right arm. Joint was almost broken in two. The warrior removed her helmet, revealing dark bronze skin and sharp eyes the color of deep stone. Her hair was braided tightly, falling to one side. She looked at Rian without speaking for a moment. Her gaze steady. "You are the human engineer," she said finally, her voice calm but carrying weight. "That is what they call me," Rian replied, setting aside the shield generator. "What happened to your armor?" "A blast from an enemy cannon," she answered simply. "The plates held, but the joints are failing." "Can you repair it?" Rian nodded. "Place it here," he said, motioning to the repair table. She removed her chest plate, arm guards, and shoulder plates, setting each piece carefully in front of him. As Rian examined the damage, he noticed the craftsmanship was unlike anything from Earth. The Karethi armor was made from a strange alloy that could shift its structure to absorb impacts. But once damaged, it required precise recalibration to function again. "You fought in the front line?" Rian asked while inspecting. "The arm joint, yes," she said. "I am Vera of the Storm Blades. My squad held the West Ridge this morning. The enemy came in waves." Rian worked quietly, his hand steady as he unlocked the damaged joint and removed burnt fragments of the alloy. The tent was silent except for the soft click of tools and the faint hum of the repair machine. He had repaired many suits before, but this one showed signs of heavy strain, dents in strange places, scorched areas where the shield had failed for a second to long dot as he worked. He felt her eyes on him. Vera was watching his every movement, her head slightly tilted as if studying something beyond the repairs themselves. "Your hands are careful," she said after a while. "Precise. You remind me of someone." Rian looked up briefly. "Someone, you know." Her expression changed slightly, as if she was thinking of a memory far away. "Not someone I know now," she said. "Someone from long ago. A human." That caught his attention. "Another human. Here." She nodded slowly. "Yes, my people met a human once, long before your time. He appeared during a great war, carrying strange tools. He repaired our weapons, our armor, even our ships. His skill saved many lives." Rian returned to his work, curious but unsure what to say. A human in Karethi history? He had never heard of such a thing. "And you think I remind you of him because of how I work?" "It is not just your work," Vera replied. "It is the way you focus, the way you move when you fix something. It is the same as him. Even your eyes watch the problem the same way." He tightened a new joint into place, the metal clicking softly as it locked. "Maybe it is coincidence." "Maybe," she said, but her tone suggested she did not believe it. Rian tested the repaired arm piece, flexing it back and forth until it moved smoothly. He reattached it to the rest of the armor and began sealing the burn marks with a thin layer of alloy resin. He worked quickly but with care, knowing the suit would be needed again soon. Outside, the camp was alive with shouts and the distant rumble of transports moving supplies. The war never paused for long. Vera stepped closer, watching as he placed the final piece back into position. You do not fight, yet your hands keep warriors alive. That is a kind of strength. I am not built for the front line, Rian said, but if I can give you the tools to survive, I have done my part. She studied him for another moment before lifting her repaired armor from the table. Perhaps you will do more than you think, human engineer. Rian gave a small shrug. Unsure how to answer, she fastened her armor and turned to leave, her tall figure filling the entrance of the tent. Before stepping out, Vera looked back at him once more. The human I knew long ago changed the fate of my people. When I see you work, I wonder if fate is repeating itself. Then she was gone, leaving Rian standing in the quiet tent, the smell of scorched alloy still in the air. He did not know why her words stayed with him, but they did. The day went on, and Rian returned to his repairs. Yet in the back of his mind, he kept thinking of that strange story, of a human who had walked among the Karethi centuries before, changing their history. It sounded like legend, but there had been something in Vera's eyes that told him. She believed it completely. Outside, the distant sound of battle rolled across the plains again. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the war was still raging, and soon, more damaged armor would find its way into his hands. But now, Rian found himself wondering if his work was just repairs or the first steps towards something much larger. The next morning came with a red sky. Dust hung in the air over the plains, making the sunlight look strange and heavy. The war camp was already awake. Karethi warriors moved quickly between tents, carrying crates of energy cells, ammunition, and food. Engineers were loading damaged machines onto transports, while officers studied glowing maps on tall display screens. Rian was in the repair tent again, sorting through a pile of broken equipment from the night's skirmish. The battle had been short but violent, leaving behind scorched shields, melted rifle barrels, and cracked helmet visors. He worked without pause, knowing that every delay meant a fighter might go into battle with weak gear. He was cleaning them inside of a damaged energy core when the tent flap moved. He looked up and saw Vera standing there. Her armor was polished now, the black plates reflecting faint light from the repair lamps. The burn marks were gone, and the joints he had fixed. Yesterday looked strong. You work early, she said as she stepped inside. The war does not stop, Rian replied, putting the core aside. Neither can I. Vera walked toward him, her boots making a soft metallic sound on the tent's floor. She set a small metal case on the table. This is a power regulator from my squad's shield unit. It failed during the night. I need it working before the next patrol. Rian opened the case and studied the device. The regulator was burned on one side, with a thin crack running through its surface. He switched on his lamp and began examining it closely. Vera stood near, her hands resting on the table's edge. She watched as he removed the damaged components with careful precision. You still remind me of him, she said suddenly. Rian paused, holding a tiny wrench in his hand. The human you told me about yesterday. Yes, she said. Her voice was calm, but there was something deeper behind it, as if the memory carried weight. I have been thinking about it since I left your tent. It is strange to see the same focus, the same patience, after so many years. Rian kept working, but his mind was on her words. How long ago was this? Vera tilted her head slightly. Our records say it was more than 300 cycles ago. By your time, that would be over 300 years. Rian's hands paused for a second. 300 years? That is impossible. No human could have lived that long. And our people only met yours in recent times. She looked at him steadily. Perhaps it is not impossible. The Karethi believe in many paths through the stars. Some are not bound by normal time. He didn't know how to respond. The thought of a human living among the Karethi 3 centuries ago felt unreal. Still, the way she spoke made him think she truly believed it. As he adjusted the cracked surface of the regulator, he decided to ask more. What was his name? Vera was silent for a moment. We do not know. The old records only call him the first one. Some of the elders said he never spoke of where he came from, only that he had been traveling a long time. He built things we had never seen before. He showed us how to repair our armor faster, how to strengthen our walls against enemy fire. Without him, our people might not have survived. Rion fitted a new energy coil into the regulator. And you think I am like him? Vera's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in thought. Not just like him. When you work, your hands move the same way. You do not rush, but you do not waste time. You see the damage and already know how to heal it. The first one was the same. He slid the last piece into place and began sealing the outer shell of the regulator. If he was real, and not just a story, then I am nothing like him. I am just an engineer doing his job. You are wrong, Vera said quietly. A job is just a word. The choice to give everything to that work is what makes it different. Rion handed the repaired regulator to her. There, it should hold now. Even under heavy fire, she took it, turning it in her hands. You may think this is just a small repair, but it may save a life today. Rion started to clear the table for the next task when a sharp sound cut through the camp. A long, rising alarm echoed from the command posts. The steady movements of the warriors outside shifted instantly into urgent motion. Orders were shouted in the Karethi tongue. Vera turned toward the noise, her body tense. A Karethi scout appeared at the tent entrance, his armor dusty from a fast ride. Storm blades. He called, "The enemy is on the move. They have found a way to weaken the shield lines. Command is calling all units." Vera's eyes met. Rion's, if the shields fail, our armor will not protect us for long. She hesitated for only a second before saying, "You are coming with me." Rion blinked. "What? I am not a fighter. You are more than that," she said firmly. "If the regulators fail again, only you will be able to repair them in the field. I will not risk losing more warriors when you can prevent it." Before he could argue, she was already fastening her helmet and calling for her squad. Outside, hover transports roared to life, their engines sending waves of dust across the camp. Warriors climbed aboard, their armor gleaming under the strange red light of the sky. Rion stood for a moment, torn between the safety of the repair tent and the pull of something else, a feeling he could not name. Then he picked up his tool bag. When he reached the transport, Vera was waiting at the ramp. "Stay close to me," she said. "Do as I tell you, and keep your hands ready. We will need them." The transport lifted from the ground with a heavy vibration, the camp shrinking behind them. Ahead, the plains stretched wide and broken, dotted with the smoke of burning wrecks. Somewhere beyond that smoke, the enemy was waiting. As the wind rushed past, Rion gripped his tool bag and wondered what he had just agreed to. The hover transport cut through the dusty air at high speed. Its engines hummed with a deep, steady sound, while the Karethi warriors inside sat in silence, checking their weapons and adjusting their armor. Rion sat near the back, holding his tool bag tightly as the vehicle shook from the rough wind. He had never been this far from the camp before, and every mile they traveled made the war feel closer and heavier. Vera stood at the center of the transport, holding onto an overhead strap. Even in the rumbling noise, she looked calm, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Her black and silver armor reflected the faint red light filtering through the dust clouds. Rion tried not to stare, but the question in his mind kept growing. The legend she had told him yesterday had not left his thoughts. Finally, he spoke loud enough to be heard over the engines. "You never told me what happened to that human. The one you call the first one." Vera's gaze shifted to him. "Do you truly want to know?" "Yes," Rion said. "If I remind you of him, I should understand why." She studied him for a moment, then nodded. She moved closer and sat across from him. The other warriors kept silent, as if they wanted to hear the story. "It was during our darkest war," Vera began. "The Karethi clans were scattered, fighting against the Krith swarm. The Krith are not like your kind or mine. They do not build cities or ships. They consume. Everything in their path turns into more of them. When they came to our world, we had no way to stop them. They tore through our armies, crushed our strongholds, and burned our skies." Rion listened closely, trying to picture it. Then one day, Vera continued. "In the middle of the chaos, a strange craft fell from the clouds. It was not Karethi design. and it did not belong to the Krith. From its broken shell stepped a human. He was small compared to our warriors, but he carried tools, not weapons. He told our leaders he had traveled far, that he had seen wars like ours before, and that he knew how to fight them. Rian could almost see it. A lone human standing among tall armored warriors, offering knowledge instead of firepower. The leaders were desperate, Ver said. They gave him a chance. He studied our armor, our weapons, our defenses. He told us what to change, where to strengthen, how to repair faster in battles. He ran between the lines, fixing broken gear. While the fight still raged, some said the Krith feared him, though he never carried a blade. Rian leaned forward slightly. What happened to him? Vera's eyes narrowed as she thought. For many cycles, he fought with us. He became part of our people. Then, when the final battle came, the Krith brought down our shields. The first one worked without rest, repairing the last line of defense. When the sun rose, the Krith were gone. But so was he. Gone? Rian asked. No body, no craft, Vera said. Only his tools remained, set neatly on a table in the main hall. Some believe he left through a path in the stars. Others think he gave his life to seal the Krith away. All we know is that his final words were written in our records, he said. Another will come when you need them most. Rian sat back, the weight of her words pressing on him. You think I am that other? Vera did not answer directly. You are here when our shields are failing. You fix what others cannot. Tell me, Rian, do you believe in coincidence? Before he could reply, the transport slowed suddenly. The warriors straightened as the pilot's voice came through the comm, approaching the west ridge. Enemy presence detected. The vehicle hovered low, and the rear ramp lowered with a hiss of air. Rian felt the rush of wind and the smell of burnt metal. Outside, the ridge stretched across a wide plain, its rocky surface dotted with defensive turrets and shield emitters. The Karethi soldiers guarding the position waved them in urgently. Vera stood and motioned to Rian. Stay close. They stepped out onto the ridge. The air was hot, filled with the hum of energy fields and the distant rumble of enemy artillery. Several shield emitters stood in a line, each glowing faintly blue, but two of them flickered weakly, and one had already gone. Dark, a Karethi officer ran to Vera. The enemy has found a way to overload the regulators. We are losing shields faster than we can replace them. Rian was already moving toward the nearest damage unit, opening his tool bag. I need power readings now, he called out. Vera signaled a soldier to assist him, while Rian began dismantling the damaged regulator. Vera's squad took positions, watching the horizon. The work was difficult. The inside of the regulator was scorched, its circuits burned beyond standard repair. Rian's hands moved quickly, replacing key components with spares from his bag, rerouting damaged power lines, and reinforcing the casing with Karethi alloy strips. The ground shook from a distant explosion. Vera's voice came through the comm. Rian, how long? 2 minutes, he said. Tightening a connection, enemy fire began striking the ridge, sending sparks and fragments into the air. The Karethi warriors returned fire, their rifles glowing as they unleashed bursts of energy toward the incoming shapes on the horizon. Rian finished sealing the regulator and reconnected it to the shield network. The emitter glowed bright again, its blue light spreading across the ridge. The soldiers nearby let out short cheers. VE wire a move to his side. One more is down the line. Can you handle it? Yes, Rian said, grabbing his bag. They ran together toward the second damaged unit. As they reached it, a blast struck nearby, knocking them both to the ground. Rian's ears rang, but he pushed himself up. Vera offered her arm, pulling him to his feet. You work like him, she said over the noise. Even under fire. Rian didn't answer. He was already opening the second unit, his hands moving fast. This one was worse, nearly destroyed by the overload, but he refused to leave it dead. By the time he finished, enemy forces were retreating under heavy Karethi fire. The ridge was holding. The shields were back at full strength. Rian wiped sweat from his brow and closed his bag. Vera stood beside him, looking at the glowing shield line. The first one saved us once, she said. Perhaps you are here to do it again. Rian looked at her but said nothing. The wind carried the smell of dust and ozone, and somewhere, deep inside, a small part of him began to wonder if she might be right. The ridge was quiet now except for the low hum of the shield emitters. The Karethi soldiers moved among the defenses, repairing what they could and checking for hidden damage. Smoke still rose from the plains where the enemy had fallen back. Rian was kneeling near the last repaired unit, packing away his tools, when Vera approached. Her helmet was tucked under her arm, and her face was set in a serious expression. "You did well," she said. "Without you, we would have lost this ridge." Rian stood and wiped dust from his hands. "It was just repairs. Your squad held the line." She shook her head. "You still think that, but you do not see the full picture. The battle is changing. The enemy will not stop. They will come again with something stronger." He glanced at the horizon, where dark clouds of smoke hung over the distant battlefield. "Then I will keep fixing what I can." Vera stepped closer. "No, I need more from you now." Her tone made him pause. "What do you mean?" She motioned toward the command post, where officers were gathered around a large map table. "The enemy is attacking our shield lines because they have found the source of our energy grid. It is deep in the western canyons. If they destroy it, every shield on this front will collapse. We must protect it, but the path there is dangerous. Many of the relay stations on the way are failing. Without them, our units will be blind." Brienne understood quickly. "And you want me to fix the relays on the way?" "Yes," she said. "We cannot send only engineers. They would not survive the journey, and we cannot send only warriors because they cannot repair what is broken. So you will come with my squad." Rian frowned. "I am not trained for combat." "You will not fight unless you must," she said firmly. "You will work while we protect you. But I cannot promise safety. If you agree, you must be ready for whatever we face." For a moment, Rian thought of refusing. The idea of leaving the camp again, going deeper into the war zone, felt like walking toward a storm. But he remembered Vera's story of the first one, how he had run between battle lines to repair shields, how he had changed the outcome of a war. He closed his tool bag. "All right, I will go." Vera gave a short nod, as if she had expected this answer. We leave at first light the next morning. The sky was still dark when the squad gathered at the edge of the camp. Rian climbed aboard a smaller transport this time, built for speed and maneuvering through rough terrain. Vera's squad of 8 warriors joined him, their armor gleaming with fresh energy charges. As they moved out, the camp disappeared behind them. The plains gave way to rocky hills, the ground scarred by old battles. Wrecked machines lay half buried in the dust, their metal frames twisted and silent. The first relay station was an hour away. When they reached it, Rian found the main console burned out from an overload. He worked quickly, replacing damaged circuits while Vera and her warriors kept watch. Twice, enemy drones appeared on the horizon, but the squad shot them down before they could get close. By midday, they had repaired 3 stations. The path ahead narrowed into a canyon with high walls of redstone. The transport slowed as they entered the shade of the cliffs. "This is where the danger begins," Vera said quietly. "The enemy knows this route." The canyon was silent, except for the hum of the transport's engine. Then, without warning, the ground ahead erupted in a burst of fire and dust. The driver swerved hard to avoid the blast. Figures in dark armor appeared on the cliffs, firing down at them. The squad moved fast. 2 warriors returned fire while the others formed a shield wall around the transport. Vera pulled Rian down. "Behind cover, stay low," she ordered. Rian's heart pounded, but he kept his bag close. He could hear the sharp hiss of energy rounds passing overhead. "We need to move," one of the warriors called. "They are trying to trap us here." Vera looked toward a narrow path leading up the canyon wall. "Rian, the next relay is up there. If we reach it, we can call for support." Rian looked at the path, steep, rocky, and exposed. "I can make the climb, but it will take time to repair." "We will give you that time," Vera said. She signaled to warriors to go with him. "Go now. We will hold the line." Rian ran with the 2 Karethi escorts, climbing quickly up the path. Enemy fire cracked against the rocks around them, but the warriors shielded him as they moved. When they reached the relay, Rian saw the problem immediately. The energy coupler had been smashed by a direct hit. He dug through his bag for spare parts, working with shaking hands. Below, the sound of the battle echoed through the canyon. The Karethi warriors stood like walls beside him, firing down at the attackers. Minutes felt like hours, but finally the coupler locked into place. Rian reconnected the power flow, and the relay's signal light flickered to life. Down below, Vera's voice came through the comm. "We see your signal. Support is on the way," as if on cue. The deep roar of Karethi gunships filled the canyon. Energy blasts rained down on the enemy positions, forcing them to scatter. Rian sat back, breathing hard. His hands were sore, and his clothes were covered in dust and scorch marks. But the relay was working. The warriors helped him down the path to the transport, where Vera waited. "You did well," she said. "The first one would have done the same." Rian shook his head. "I'm not him." Vera placed a hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps not, but you are here now, and that matters more than you know." The squad moved on, deeper into the canyon, toward the energy grid they had sworn to protect. Rian did not know what they would face next, but a strange feeling had settled in his chest, not pride, not fear, but something between them, something that made him want to keep going. The canyon walls widened as the squad moved closer to the heart of the western defense grid. The air was cooler here, carrying the faint scent of metal and fuel. Somewhere beyond the final bend, the main energy hub waited, a towering structure that powered the shields for half the Karethi front lines. Rian sat in the transport, watching the rocks slide past. He had fixed 5 relay stations since leaving the camp, each one under some kind of pressure, whether enemy fire, failing parts, or difficult terrain. His arms were sore from carrying his tool bag, but the work kept his mind from focusing on the danger that followed them everywhere. Vera stood near the front, scanning the route with sharp eyes. "We are close," she told the squad, "but stay ready. The enemy will not let us reach the hub without a fight." Her words proved true sooner than expected. The transport rolled into an open valley between two ridges. The sky above was hazy, the sun dim behind drifting dust clouds. At first, the path seemed empty. Then a sudden flash lit the ridge to their left. A blast of energy slammed into the ground near the transport, shaking the metal frame. "Ambush!" One of the warriors shouted. Dark shapes appeared on both ridges, moving fast. They were segmented armor that shimmered in shifting colors, blending with the rocky background. Enemy fire rained down. In bright streams, the Karethi transport swerved, but more blasts struck the ground around. "Them out," Vera ordered. The squad jumped from the transport, forming a defensive line with their shields raised. Rian crouched low behind the nearest rock, clutching his tool bag. He could see enemy troops closing in, their weapons glowing with heat. Warning came through the comm from the transport pilot. "The front armor is failing. If they hit the engine, we will lose it." Vera looked to Rian. "Can you reinforce it?" He blinked. "Under fire? You have done worse," she said simply, without waiting for another word. Rian sprinted toward the transport, staying low as enemy shots cracked into the ground around him. He slid under the front section and yanked open a panel. The heat from the damaged armor plates burned against his gloves, but he forced his hands to keep moving. The plating was dented and scorched, the power feed to the shield projector cut in two. He grabbed a spare conductor from his bag, splicing it into place while sparks jumped across his vision dot above him. Karethi warriors held the line, their energy rifles firing in steady bursts. Vera's voice was clear and strong over the comm, directing the squad's fire and keeping the enemy from advancing too far. 30 seconds. Rian called. One of the enemy blasts hit close enough to send a shock through the transport's frame. The noise rattled his teeth, but he kept his focus. His fingers tightened the last connector, and the shield projector roared to life, covering the transport in a faint blue glow. "Done," he shouted. "Back to cover," Vera ordered. Rian ran for the defensive line, diving behind the same rock he had left earlier. The transport's shields now absorbed incoming shots, buying the squad more time. But the enemy numbers were still growing. More figures appeared along the ridges, and the sound of their weapons filled the valley. "We cannot stay here," one of the warriors said. Vera scanned the field quickly. "There's a ridge pass to the east. If we break through there, we can circle behind them and reach the hub." She turned to Rian. "You will ride in the transport and keep the shield running. If it fails, we will be exposed." Rian nodded, his heart pounding. The squad moved as one. 3 warriors took point, their rifles cutting a path toward the pass. Vera stayed near the transport, firing in controlled bursts. Rian worked from inside, keeping the shield projector stable despite the constant impacts. Every few seconds, a bright flash would hit the barrier, sending ripples across its surface. The pass came into view, a narrow gap between two jagged rock faces. But as they neared it, a heavy enemy cannon appeared on the ridge above, locking its aim on them. "Cannon!" Someone shouted. The first shot struck the shield hard enough to dim its light for a moment. Rian's hands flew across the control panel, rerouting power to keep it alive. The second shot followed, and this time the shield flickered dangerously. If it fires again, we will not make it," Vera warned. Rian's mind raced. "Get me closer to the ridge," he said into the comm. "What?" Vera asked. "I can overload the projector for a short burst. It will push through their fire long enough to get past. But I need to be right under them." Vera gave the order. Without hesitation, the transport swerved toward the base of the ridge, enemy shots bouncing off the weakened shield. Rian made the adjustments quickly, his fingers moving on instinct. The third cannon blast came, and this time, instead of breaking, the shield flared in a brilliant surge, absorbing the energy and throwing it outward in a shock wave. The enemy cannon crew was knocked back from the blast, and the squad charged through the pass before they could recover. When they reached the other side, the valley opened toward the energy hub. The enemy forces behind them were in disarray. The squad regrouped at a safe distance from the hub's outer walls. Vera removed her helmet and looked at Rian with a faint, proud smile. The first one was known for finding a way when none existed. Today, you did the same. Some of the warriors nearby exchanged glances, speaking in low tones. Rian could not understand all the Karethi words, but he caught enough to know they were comparing him to the figure from their legend. He shook his head. "I am not a hero. I just repaired a shield." Vera's eyes held his for a long moment. "Sometimes that is all it takes to turn a battle." The squad moved into the hub, preparing to secure it against the next enemy wave. Rian followed, his tool bag still in hand. He could feel the weight of the warriors' glances now, not in judgment, but in a kind of respect that made him uneasy, and somewhere deep inside, a question he did not want to answer was beginning to grow stronger. The energy hub was quiet for the first time in days. The Karethi squad had set up a perimeter around the main control room. The hum of the power cores filled the air, steady and calm compared to the chaos of the battle earlier. Rian sat on a crate, near one of the consoles, cleaning his tools. His hands were still shaking a little, not from fear, but from the rush of keeping the shield alive under fire. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flash of the cannon shot and felt the heat of the overloaded projector. Vera entered the room, carrying 2 metal cups of steaming liquid. She handed one to him. "What is this?" he asked. "Karethi. Root brew," she said. "It helps the body recover after battle." Rian took a cautious sip. It was strong and earthy, with a faint sweetness at the end. "Not bad," he said. Veyra leaned against the wall across from him, her eyes steady on his face. "You should know why the others look at you the way they do," she said. He frowned. "Because I fixed a shield." She shook her head. "Because they think you are connected to the first one." Rian set the cup down. "You keep saying that name. Who was the first one?" Vera's voice softened, almost as if she was telling a story from her childhood. "Long ago, before my great-grandmother was born, the Karethi fought in a war much like this one. Our enemies had stronger weapons, larger fleets, and more soldiers. We were losing. Then, one day, a stranger appeared from the sky. His ship was small and badly damaged. He was not Karethi. His skin, his hair, his eyes, all were strange to us. Yet he carried tools unlike anything we had seen, and with them, he repaired our failing defenses. Rian listened in silence. The first one did not lead us with weapons, Ver continued. He led us with knowledge. He fixed machines that our own engineers had abandoned as broken. He taught us how to shield our transports, how to move unseen, how to fight smarter instead of only harder. Because of him, we survived. When the war ended, he left as suddenly as he came. But he promised that if the Karethi ever faced such danger again, one like him would return. Rian shook his head. That sounds like a legend. People tell stories like that to feel better during hard times. Vera smiled faintly. Perhaps. But the details match you more than you realize. How? He asked. The first one was said to carry a bag filled with strange tools. He wore no armor of his own, only what he could repair. And when others saw only failure, he found a way. Forward, her gaze sharpened. Tell me, Rian, how did you learn to work with alien systems so quickly? No ordinary human technician could have done what you did to that shield today. Rian rubbed the back of his neck. I do not know. It just made sense when I looked at it, the patterns, the power flow, the way the parts fit. I could see it in my head. That is what the stories say the first one could do, Ver said quietly. A silence stretched between them, filled only by the hum of the power cores. Finally, Rian sighed. Even if your first one was real, it was hundreds of years ago. There's no way I could be him, or even related to him. Perhaps not in blood, Ver said, but in spirit, that is harder to deny. Before Rian could reply, the comm on Vera's wrist buzzed. A voice came through. Urgent, Commander. Enemy scouts have been spotted near the eastern ridge. They are likely preparing for a full assault. Ver straightened. Hold your position. We will be ready. She turned back to Rian. This story will have to wait. We need the hub's defenses operational before they arrive. Can you do it? He stood up, grabbing his tool bag. If I can see the system, I can fix it. The control room's main panel was already active, but many of the defense turrets were offline. Rian worked quickly, tracing the energy flows through the network. Several lines had been damaged in earlier fighting. He patched them with whatever materials he could find, even using parts from a broken transport sensor dot as he worked. Karethi warriors moved through the corridors, checking weapons and securing doors. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting the canyon in deep shadows, when the first enemy shots echoed in the distance. Rian finished the final connection. The defense turrets along the hub's walls came alive, their targeting arrays locking onto approaching enemy signatures. They will test the perimeter first, Vera said, watching the sensors. Then they will come with full force, Rian. Check the readings. The turrets will hold, but only if the main power core stays stable. If they damage it, the defenses will go down. Then we must make sure they do not reach it, Vera replied. The first wave of enemy troops appeared at the ridge line. The turrets opened fire, filling the air with streaks of light. Rian watched the power readings closely, adjusting the distribution whenever one section drew too much. The battle outside grew louder, the ground shaking with each blast. Through the noise, Rian heard Vera's voice over the comm, giving sharp, clear orders to her squad. For nearly an hour, the enemy tried to break through, but the hub's defenses held. Finally, the sensors showed them pulling back, leaving the ridge empty once more. Inside, the warriors cheered quietly, their relief clear in their voices. Vera stepped into the control room, her armor marked with fresh scorch lines. She looked at Rian with that same steady gaze. You see, she said, knowledge can turn the tide of war. You have done it twice in one day. Rian tried to smile, but the weight of her words stayed with him, somewhere deep inside. He wondered if maybe, just maybe, the legend of the first one was more than just a story. The sun had set, leaving the canyon covered in deep darkness. The air was cold, and the only light came from the dim glow of the hub's control panels and a few flickering torches on the walls. Rian sat at the main console, monitoring the sensors. Everything outside was still, but his instincts told him it would not stay that way for long. Vera walked in, removing her helmet. Her face was calm, but there was tension in her eyes. "The enemy pulled back earlier," she said. "It was not retreat. They are preparing for something bigger." Rian nodded. "A night attack." Vera placed a small map on the console. "Our scouts say there are multiple enemy units moving through the canyon paths. They are spreading out to attack from different sides at once in the dark. It will be harder to see them until they are close." Rian leaned over the map. "Then we need better detection. Your ground sensors will only pick up movement near the walls, but the hub has deeper systems. I saw them earlier when I was repairing the shield." He began searching through the hub's data archives, calling up old schematics. After a few moments, he found what he was looking for. Here, long-range detection arrays. They are buried under the central floor. The Karethi must have stopped using them years ago, but they still have power. Vera raised an eyebrow. "You think they still work?" "They will after I fix them," Rian said, already grabbing his tools. They descended into the lower levels of the hub. The air was thick with dust, and their steps echoed in the narrow corridors. At the far end, they found a locked maintenance hatch. Rian worked the old manual release until it opened with a sharp metallic sound. Inside was a small chamber filled with machinery that had not been touched in decades. The detection array sat in the center, its metal panels coated in a thin layer of rust. "This is it," Rian said. "Give me some light." Vera held up a portable lamp while Rian opened the panel. The internal components were worn, but the core processor was still intact. He began cleaning the connectors and replacing damaged wires with spares from his kit. The process was slow, but he worked with focused precision. As he repaired the system, a strange pattern began to appear on the side display. At first, he thought it was just interference, but then he noticed the shape, a faint symbol carved into the metal. It looked like a star surrounded by 3 curved lines. Vera noticed it too. "That is the mark of the first one," she said quietly. "It is carved on the oldest Karethi defense records." Rian felt a chill, but he pushed the thought aside. "We will talk about it later. Right now, we need this working." After nearly an hour of work, the detection array came to life. The display lit up with a clear map of the canyon, showing enemy units moving silently toward the hub from 5 different directions. "They are closer than I thought," Rian said. "We have maybe 20 minutes before they reach the outer defenses." They hurried back to the main control room. Vera gave quick orders to her warriors, spreading them to guard every entry point. The defense turrets were set to automatic mode, ready to fire the moment an enemy entered range. The first attack came from the north wall. The sound of blaster fire echoed through the night as the turrets engaged. Enemy troops tried to climb the walls using grappling hooks, but Karethi warriors cut the lines before they could reach the top. Then the east wall was hit. Explosions shook the structure as the enemy tried to blast through the gate. Rian rerouted extra power to the gates shield, keeping it intact even under heavy fire. But the enemy was clever. While most of the Karethi forces were busy at the gates, a smaller unit slipped toward the south side, moving through a shadowed ravine. The old detection array picked them up just in time. "They are trying to get to the power core," Rian said. "If they take it out, the hub will fall." Vera grabbed her weapon. "I will deal with them. Keep the defenses running." Rian stayed at the console, watching the readings and adjusting power where it was needed most. He could hear distant sounds of combat from the south side. Sharp bursts of energy fire mixed with the clash of metal. Minutes felt like hours. Then Vera's voice came over the comm, steady but tired. "South side secure. The enemy will not reach the core." But the fight was not over. The largest wave came just before dawn. Hundreds of enemy troops rushed the north and west walls at once, using smoke grenades to block the turrets' targeting systems. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Rian acted quickly, switched the turrets to thermal targeting. He told the operators. The system locked onto heat signatures, cutting through the smoke. The turrets opened fire again, and the attackers began to fall back. By the time the first light of morning touched the canyon, the enemy was in full retreat. The Karethi stood on the walls, tired but victorious dot inside the control room. Rian leaned back in his chair, finally letting out a deep breath. Vera walked in. Her armor scorched but her eyes bright. "You kept us standing," she said. "Without you, the hub would have fallen in the first hour." Rian looked at the map still glowing on the detection array. The symbol of the star, in 3 lines, was faint but visible. He traced it with his finger, feeling the grooves in the metal. "I think," he said slowly, "this hub was built by someone who knew the first one, maybe even worked with him." Vera's gaze was steady, or maybe it was built by the first one himself. Rian did not answer. The battle was over for now, but the questions had only grown. Somewhere in the past, a human had walked these halls, repaired these systems, and left a mark that had lasted for generations, and Rian could not shake the feeling that he was walking the same path.